I could not describe it well. I could not describe it well. I can't describe my feelings. I can't describe my feelings. How should I describe that? How should I describe that? Please describe exactly what happened. Please describe exactly what happened. That might have to be described in the contract. That might have to be described in the contract. He accurately described what happened there. He accurately described what happened there. He described my plans as unrealistic. He described my plans as unrealistic. It is described as follows. It is described as follows. She described the scene in detail. She described the scene in detail. He described the accident in detail to the police. He described the accident in detail to the police. This obsolete interface is not described here. This obsolete interface is not described here. This section describes the shutdown procedure. This section describes the shutdown procedure. She describes herself as an artist. She describes herself as an artist. He describes himself as a great statesman. He describes himself as a great statesman. That word describes it perfectly. That word describes it perfectly. These control technologies are described briefly below. These control technologies are described briefly below. These steps are more fully described below. These steps are more fully described below. She critically described 6 social media platforms. She critically described 6 social media platforms. The major socialist political movements are described below. The major socialist political movements are described below. The model described above is relatively simple. The model described above is relatively simple. She is described as being 12 years old. She is described as being 12 years old. The document is further described on page 70. The document is further described on page 70.